Spilak will have to bring his A game to this time trial. He's the last man off the ramp a little bit later on this afternoon. Spilak in yellow, Peter Sagan heading towards his sixth points race success in Tour de Suisse. Lasse Norman Hansen has wrapped up the King of the Mountains. He's got the blue jersey. Matthias Frank is secure in the best Swiss rider classification. Those the minor jerseys. One of the major jerseys is worn by Peter Sagan. If it's not a Black Points jersey, it's a World Champions jersey, and he gave an Arc-en-Ciel performance yesterday to take his second stage victory of the week, his 15th in his career in Tour de Suisse. Racing into Schaffhausen, absolutely nothing to touch the Slovakian superstar, as he got to practice yet another victory routine. This one a little more understated compared to the one we got earlier in the week. Suffice it to say, he's on fine form. So here's what the riders have to contend with today. We're back in Schaffhausen, this beautiful medieval city, starting in the centre of Schaffhausen and back to, well, not too far from the starting point. And it's the same finish line they used for the circuit race yesterday in Herblingen. It is, well, it's a bit of a choppy one, and those hairpins there tell you that about the halfway point, well, a little bit later on, towards the sort of final third of this course, there is a grippy little climb that is going to catch the riders out, those that have pushed a little bit too hard too early, and those that understand pacing in time trials will know you've got to keep a little bit in reserve for that finishing climb. Well, it's absolutely resplendent on another beautiful day of racing in Tour de Suisse, with a couple of obvious exceptions. The weather throughout Switzerland in 2017 has been absolutely marvellous, and they've really had the opportunity to show off this medieval town to best effect. We're very far north of Switzerland, indeed the northernmost city, called the City of the Bay Windows. 171 bay windows, or 300 depending on how you're counting them or when you're counting them in history. Suffice it to say, that was the architecture that prevailed. This city undergoing a transformation through the Renaissance and providing us with some wonderful architecture that has been preserved. Was the subject of an unfortunate bombing raid in error during the Second World War, but they've managed to retain so much of the beautiful architecture that has made this city an important destination for tourists from Switzerland, from Germany, and from so many other nations a little bit further afield. That's just around the corner from our hotel from last night, which was the Railway Hotel, the Bahnhof. Doesn't sound too appealing, but it's in a beautiful part of town. And that is we'll see that a little bit later on, I'm sure, the tower that marks the entrance to the old town, the Muno. Well, what a great week we've had. We've been in every part of this multicultural nation, from the north around Zurich, which is a little bit south of here, in the German-speaking part of Switzerland. We headed west towards the French Alps, and then south into the Italian part, then across into Austria for a little sojourn into a different nation, and back up to the north of Switzerland. Simon Spilak, the Slovenian rider. Oh, what a week they've had. Heading towards glory, or is he? Peter Sagan, well, how seriously will he take the time trial? When he wants to, he can do a great job. These are the riders being presented to the crowd, and it's a large and appreciative crowd once more. Really broke some records yesterday with the crowds out on the roads of Schaffhausen. And we have had some wonderful performances already. 8th in the prologue time trial at the beginning of the week. Ireland's Ryan Mullen off the ramp early on and setting a benchmark time that many have struggled to beat to this point. Ryan Mullen, a fine time trialist, former under-23 World Championship silver medalist, and fifth in the elite time trial in Doha last year. Well, Yves Lampert for Team Quickstep was to eclipse the time of Ryan Mullen. Lampert coming quite a bit later in the order. The 26-year-old Belgian is having a fine season, and in a team that is used to winning. He came out and brought his A game, but no surprise really. Rowan Dennis, another man starting early in the order, the Australian, This Tour de Suisse 2017 is bookended by time trials. The short prologue of 6 kilometres dominated by Rowan Dennis. This an altogether longer affair, but that really plays to his strengths even more so. And it would be a time that is going to be difficult to eclipse, because Rowan Dennis on the flat, fastest through every single intermediate time point. And coming across, as you see, 36 minutes and 30 seconds was the time for Rowan Dennis. Australian rider who's dominated time trials. He's won in the Tour of the Alps, former Giro Trentino already this year. Stage victory in Tirreno Adriatico as well in the time trial. No luck in Giro d'Italia, unfortunate early non-finish for him. So into Tour de Suisse. Will it be a double up for the time trials for Rowan Dennis? Well, the 27-year-old Aussie's in good shape. 1 minute and 41 seconds faster than Yves Lampaert. What about that for a superstar performance? Alongside me to run the rule over the riders once more for a final time this week is former British road race champion Brian Smith, and we're, as might be expected, looking at some of the riders, particularly focusing on the Swiss riders. Stefan Kung from Team BMC is out there. He's got a very, very nice style. I think he's a rider that we can expect great things of, not least, of course, based on his wonderful performance in the prologue earlier this week.
Yes, I would think so, that Stefan Kung would be a rider that could battle with the likes of Rowan Dennis at the 9 kilometre mark. He was 9 seconds behind at that moment in time. Puccio riding a very good time trial as well, albeit 1 minute and 24 behind. But at 21.9 kilometre mark, he was second fastest at that time. So just goes to show you that the Australian champion was head and shoulders above everybody else throughout this course. It was kind of expected. He did come here with 2 goals. One was the time trial, the prologue in the first stage, and this time trial he managed to get into the yellow jersey. He tested himself out, and obviously he crashed out in the, he never crashed out, he crashed in the second stage, lost a lot of time, lost his jersey, and ever since then he's done a little bit of teamwork, concentrated in this time trial, and absolutely obliterated it. Whether anybody can get close to it, as we just mentioned, Stefan Kung is out in the course, and he is within 7 seconds. He's yet to go through the next checkpoint, but I think it's going to be very difficult to beat the time of the fastest man at the moment, Rowan Dennis.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for anyone to get even close to that time from Rowan Dennis. Absolutely exceptional time. That's the benchmark, 36:30, but I think they'll be looking to try and get closer to other riders. And it's a sign-off from Martin Elmiger as he takes the plaudits of the crowd. The local man, he's a veteran, and he enjoys every opportunity. And I think this is indeed his very last race. He's ending his career, and that was the sign-off for a man who's been a really great stalwart for the BMC squad over the years. The Swiss rider, well, for the final time, deserves the slow motion for all the great work he's done over the years.
Yeah, he's been a strong rider for many, many years, a great asset to any team, and just want you to ride a final classic season and a final Tour de Suisse before thinking about retirement.
Elmiger, 37 years of age, while his career is coming to a close. Stefan Kung's, though, is very much at its outset. Remember, he was second in the prologue at the beginning of the week, and when Rowan Dennis had that crash on day 2, Kung was nicely placed to assume the yellow jersey and had the lead of his home tour for a day, which was, well, I'm sure it was a great honour, a great boost to his pride. He's quite a shy, well, I wouldn't say shy, but certainly self-effacing, not too aggressive, but he's certainly a very, very popular figure. Jan Barta now coming through, just under 2 minutes behind Rowan Dennis at this point, but that's good enough for 5th fastest. So we scroll through the order. Jan Barta, we would expect a good time from Barta. We'll see what he can manage as he works his way through those intermediate checkpoints along the way. There are 2 official time points, you might say, at 9 and 22 kilometres, and there's a couple of other timing people here at Tour de Suisse have set up another couple, so we'll try and keep you appraised of exactly what's happening at the moment as we focus on Stefan Kung. I'll tell you he was 2nd fastest through 8 kilometres to Rowan Dennis. his teammate. And indeed, second fastest 9 kilometers as well. Salvatore Puccio of Team Sky, currently showing as second fastest through 22 kilometers.
Weißt du, wenn du Casting siehst, die Erwartungen schießen mehr an.
Ja, kann man nicht schauen.
Ja,
Abgeklebt.
sollte man auch. Ja, ja.
So, das letzte Tour de Suisse.
Genau, haben wir.
Absolut.
Ja, wenn du Paar bist, immer so bist du ruhig.
Ja, ja.
Dat is nog niet neuker. Dan kan je wat stellen social media van de
Social media.
Well, that's it for the final time. Martin Elbinger, he's 38 actually, and moved across to BMC for his final season, having raced for the last few years with the cycling squad, which folded at the end of last year with the Swiss team. For several years before that, AG Tour Le Mondial, and earlier on in his career with the Andy Rees sponsored Phonak Keiring squad. Stefan Kung picking up Minuteman along the way, so he's clearly pushing, as if we didn't already understand that, and he's on this climb, and it really is a rhythm breaker.
Yeah, just passing Nick van der Leijken, who's been out in the break, battling for the King of the Mountains and had to settle for second. This looks like we're on the foot of the climb. This is a climb of about 4 kilometres in length. Average is about 5%, but it is pushing many of the riders out the saddle.
Well, Nick van der Leijken dutifully goes over to the opposite side of the road, and he will, I feel, as soon as they get a little bit further up the road, he'll drop dutifully back, sort of 8 to 10th bike lengths back, so as not to be seen to be taking pace. I suppose on the climb, such as it is, there isn't much in the way of shelter. Certainly a lot less, despite the rapid progress that World Tour pros are capable of. Van der Leijken will understand what's required and what's necessary in the rules of time trialling. Very much a solo affair. Van der Leijken, well, he had a good old swing at it, didn't he, in the King of the Mountains. He was in the break on a couple of occasions. Ended up second as well in the competition for the most amount of kilometres out front to Lasse Norman Hansen, as we pick up Salvatore Puccio across the line, and this is going to be a very impressive time. Puccio goes to second, albeit almost 1.5 minutes down on Rowan Dennis, but he improves on the time of Yves Lampaert and has secured that second position for the moment by a significant amount. A couple of other riders in as well. I can tell you that Lampaert is in. Mullen is sitting in 4th place at the moment. He's pushed back another position. Guillaume Arndt, been an important part of Michael Matthews' lead-out train this week. Very fine sprinter in his own right. Well, Van der Leijken certainly has greater facility on the climbs in comparison with Stefan Kung than on the flat road, so I'm sure when they get to the descent, and particularly when they get to the flat road afterwards, he'll start to disappear from the back of Stefan Kung, another Swiss rider with BMC. Well, Michael Scher, former national road race champion. He's a big engine on the front of the train for the BMC squad, yet to produce big time trial form, but you sense that he certainly could be capable of it. Now this little plateau section. Across the top of the climb, Michael Matthews, the aforementioned Team Sunweb rider, another man who's been in the yellow jersey this week, took the victory into Bern, and with it the yellow jersey for a day. Had himself 1.5 minutes back, so it's going to be a strong effort from Matthews.
Yeah, compared to all the others, I think we're going to be hearing that pretty much throughout the time trial today, compared to all the others, because just like the prologue, Rowan Dennis, the Australian champion, seems to be head and shoulders above everybody else. Jan Barta has been, I would say, maybe a little bit disappointing in the time setting out in the course, because Jan Barta, a bit of a specialist, especially over this type of distance. He's done a very good prologue coming into the finish here, but I think it's all the work he's done for Sagan this week. It's taken the sharpness off his time trialling today.
Well, Jan Barta for the Bora Hansgrohe squad. He's done great work for Peter Sagan during the week. Crosses the line, throws the bike at the line, and Barta slots in 4th fastest pushes Mullen one further position back. So it's now Rowan Dennis by 1 minute and 29 seconds ahead of Salvatore Puccio, Yves Lampert, Jan Barta, Rowan Mullen. Owen Dool is home now and currently sitting in 6th position. The camera hurries to pick up Michael Albacini, crossed the line. Not going to worry Rowan Dennis, but the Orica Scott rider, the Swiss veteran, has been in fine form this week. Hasn't got the stage win that he's so desired, but a couple of top 5 positions, particularly, of course, that second place to Peter Sagan earlier in the week, into Chevio. And now Greg Van Avermaet. Greg Van Avermaet is capable of a good time trial.
Yes, but I don't think it'll be today. It's a little bit long, this time trial, and I think he's just happy. He's honing his form. He's the next step for Greg Van Avermaet will be the Tour de France, and obviously with Richie Porte doing so well, it's heavily weighted towards support for Richie Porte, but it's not stopped Greg Van Avermaet from popping up with a win in the Tour de France before.
Well, we pick up Larry Warbasse, who gave us perhaps the highlight of the week, one of my highlights certainly. Larry Warbasse, not just for his wonderful stage victory, but for his emotional victory speech afterwards, which really described what it means to take your maiden professional success. Winning up to Villars, surviving from the early break, surprising the GC favourites, still with 40 seconds in hand over Damiano Caruso when he crested the line at Villars-sur-Olon on the first mountain stage, which really gave us the shape of general classification. There's been quite a bit of movement in that yellow jersey quest throughout the week. Caruso indeed was the first rider to retain the jersey, having taken it over on that day that Warbasse got his great success. Caruso held it for 2 days, then Domenico Pozzovivo. What a wonderful stage success he gave us as well. Great attacking performance on the Albula Pass on the second mountain day, and then racing down in torrential rain to La Punt to take a famous stage victory, and breaking the hearts of this man actually on that occasion. Michael Woods had to make do with 10th on the stage. He manages a smile now. I wonder how often he's smiled since that stage. Well, the Canadian Michael Woods is into action on the final day of racing in the Tour de Suisse 2017. It's stage 9. It's the time trial based around Schaffenhausen, and, well, what can Michael Woods manage? Is the time trial something that he wants to investigate? Sylvain Chavanel has certainly enjoyed time trials in the past. He's former French national champion, multinational champion indeed. Just how minded will he be to try and roll back the years and see can he drag one big performance out? Looks like Stefan Kung is getting close to more riders coming in. Is this Nicolas Art who's coming up to complete? No, yep, Nicolas Art rolling to the line just behind John Degenkolb. John Degenkolb caught on the line by the man starting a minute behind him. And that is a very, very impressive time. Gets to within 1 minute and 13 seconds of Rowan Dennis. Goes to second on the timesheets. Nicolas Art from Team Sunweb brought out the big watts today. Showed them to good effect. Solid effort by Stefan Kung. He's on a good one. Well, he's second, of course, in that prologue.
Yeah, he lost 9 seconds at the start, the first time check. At the second time check there, he was 39 seconds down. So I think he'll know this. And you know, it's been a tough race for a lot of these riders. Tough course today. But I think it's a big ask for Stefan Kung if he's going to get any closer at all to the time of Rowan Dennis. As we said right from the start, I think we're going to be talking about the best of the rest, because I can't see any people coming close to Rowan Dennis's time today.
Well, later on we'll have the GC fight. Keep an eye on Michael Matthews coming to the line. They're banging the boards, they're cheering the Aussie home. The man they call Bling has clearly gone out to see what he can manage. It's a solid effort indeed. Goes to third for Michael Matthews from Team Sunweb. Second and third now on the timesheet for the Sunweb squad. Well, BMC have very much been to the fore throughout the week. Several days in the yellow jersey. Not looking as if they're going to take the overall honours, but don't rule it out. Damiano Caruso to come later on. He'll be second last man off the start ramp. chasing that 52-second deficit to the overall race leader, Simon Spilak. Camera, not surprisingly, following Stefan Kung with interest. Second in the prologue, as I mentioned a little earlier. How much of an indicator is that? How much can we use that to indicate form for this final day time trial?
I don't think he can, because of the stages that have come between. The prologue was only short, 6 kilometres. It was fast, and you know, obviously it was only a matter of seconds between everybody. If we look back to see the time between both of the riders, Stefan Kung and Rowan Dennis, it was only a mere 8 seconds. Well, they already lost 9 seconds in the first time check at 9 kilometres to go. So Stefan Kung is on probably one of the easier parts of the course. It's pretty much downhill all the way towards the finish, or slightly downhill all the way to the finish, especially the last 3 kilometres. So I can't see him bringing back any time whatsoever, and I think he'll be looking to try and stay in second place and do what they did in the first time trial, finishing first and second. Look, Declan, we've got 2 races today. The first race is for the stage one. I think that's going to go Australia's way to Rowan Dennis, but we still have got an exciting finish, because looking at the top 10, Simon Spilak has got definitely a nice buffer, but who else is going to finish in the podium? In the top 10 I can see a lot of movement, and it's going to be exciting. So yeah, it's a race of we've got 2 races in one pretty much today, and I'm afraid to say that I think the Australian champion has got the first of them. That's the stage one, but we're still expecting some fireworks in the overall.
Yes, they're all racing to compare themselves to Rowan Dennis at the moment. Philip Teichmann is in, just 2.5 minutes down. The Team Skyman, 13th on the timesheet at the moment. Well, it's a decent effort, but plenty of riders to come, and plenty of motivated riders as well, trying to adjust their positions on general classification. Move up rather than move down will be what they'll be trying to do. Stefan Kung certainly does know this course, doesn't he? Picks a nice line through that left-hander. Kung, like most of these riders, will have recce'd this course in advance on at least one and probably a couple of occasions this morning. Indeed, riders of the likes of Kung and many of the other local riders could well have been over this course in recent times as well. You see the flags fluttering in the breeze. The wind has picked up a little bit today. It's you know, it hasn't been a factor all week really, has it, the wind, but just a little bit more wind today than there has been.
Yeah, it's I've measured it at 15 kilometres an hour, and it has hampered the riders as we leave Schaffhausen. But yeah, it's not an easy course as Chavanel comes across into second place, just over a minute down. But Stefan Kung's going to eclipse that by the looks of things, and sit in the second place for the time being.
Well, what a great effort from Sylvain Chavanel to go second, but not for very long, because here comes Stefan Kung. He's less than a minute behind the Frenchman, and that means that he's going to second on the timesheets, less than half a minute behind Rowan Dennis. Given that he lost, well, 8 seconds in 6 kilometres, that's probably about right indeed. If anything, he's pared his deficit back to just on a second per kilometre. For Stefan Kung, that actually represents a pretty strong effort. He'll be satisfied with that. It's 1-2 for BMC at the moment. So the provisional standings on stage 9 of Tour de Suisse, the time trial, the final stage. Greg Van Avermaet has, well, may well be aware, probably not at this point, that Rowan Dennis is the fastest man. Certainly know that, but will he know that Stefan Kung has just gone second on the timesheets, just 29 seconds behind his teammate. Fellow BMC man Greg Van Avermaet hasn't really been, well, he's been in the action, hasn't he? He's tried a few attacks, but hasn't been that interested in going up for the sprints, hasn't perhaps felt that there's much value in going toe-to-toe with the likes of Michael Matthews and particularly Peter Sagan on the form that they're displaying.
Greg Van Avermaet has had a very good start to the year, classic season, and you take a little bit of a dip and then you start preparing for the Tour de France. I don't think he's in a bad way. He just doesn't have that that few percent that he needed yesterday. He went on the attack yesterday in the final lap and the final climb. He tried to do something, but failed. But I think he has to be pleased the way his form is starting to build now towards the Tour.
There's the provisional standings in the final stage of Tour de Suisse. It's Rowan Dennis by 29 seconds, almost half a minute up on his teammate Stefan Kung. Sylvain Chavanel has just gone to third of late, and he's just over a minute back, 1 minute and 10 seconds. Nicky Hazard sitting in fourth for Team Sunweb, just ahead of Michael Matthews in fifth. Puccio, Labert, Barta, Rowan Mullen and Owain Doull round out the top 10 at the moment. Carlos Betancourt is off the start ramp. Meanwhile, his teammate, the man from Portugal, the Portuguese national time trial champion, Nelson Oliveira. Indeed, he's a four-time national champion of Portugal and often does come up with some good results. Indeed, he has done in Tour de Suisse in the past.
Yeah, I think the whole Movistar team, since they brought on Alex Dowsett, they've learned to concentrate in time trial, and especially team time trial training and competing. They have kind of lifted the bar somewhat, and you know, they like to have some very good time trialists. Okay, not big strong time trialists when you think of Castro Viejo and Nelson Oliveira, but up against the rest of the time trial riders, they normally do some good results. But I don't think Nelson Oliveira is the best form at the moment.
Jan Bakelants has been very prominent this week. He was in the big breakaway. Race clear on stage 7. Didn't quite have enough in hand to hang on, but certainly showed the jersey with great effect. Meanwhile, Michael Scher, a bit of movement on the bike. I suspect the wind just caught those deep section wheels. Can be tough to hang on to them. Well, he's as big and as strong as any rider out there.
You got to remember the prologue was set at a time that was just about 56 kilometres an hour. The time out in the course for Rowan Dennis is somewhat slower at just a nip under 47 kilometres an hour. So the wind is hampering them a little bit. I measured it earlier on today at 15 kilometres an hour, and it's not really aiding a lot of the riders, and that's why the average times for many of these riders are down in the kind of 45, 46 kilometres an hour mark.
Well, the man from Dearborn, Michigan, getting some much desired camera time and clearly making a big effort as well. Some riders will be just riding home. Even at that, of course, they do have to make, they have to get a sweat up, don't they? Even cruising by World Tour standards, you got to make sure you're inside the time limit. Michael Woods, Canadian rider, has really burst to prominence despite the fact that he's 30. He's a relatively new rider in the world of cycling. Former runner of national standing in Canada, but unfortunately a series of injuries forcing him to retire from athletics and moved across to the bike. And he's a natural, isn't he? He's really taken to it with good effect, great effect indeed, and star of Giro d'Italia, and clearly has brought good legs through the Suisse. Michael Woods will press on his teammate Ryan Mullen, best Cannondale rider, as we take in the sights. Near us here in Schaffhausen, these the famous Rheinfall, the biggest waterfall in Europe, or so they tell me. It's 150 meters wide, 23 meters deep. An extraordinary amount of water plunges down those waterfalls every second. I'm told anything up to 700,000 litres a second. Seems like a lot. Suffice it to say, it's a big destination for tourists in this part of the world, and they're very proud to show it off, and as well they might. Between 14 and 17,000 years ago, these Rheinfall first appeared. Significant geographical location in these here parts. Greg van Avermaet racing down towards the conclusion of his Tour de Suisse. It's a solid block of training, if nothing else, and the Belgian rider out of the saddle just to maintain momentum. It's like he's given it a bit of a swing, not making any significant inroads on the intermediate timing sectors. Meanwhile, Michael Woods just adjusts himself on the saddle. So many riders feeling the need to do that. And plenty of encouragement. The crowd's been pretty good on the roads of Tour de Suisse this year. Meanwhile, Patrick Conrad, what fantastic work he has done for the Bora Hansgrohe squad this week.
10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, los.
So Patrick Conrad is into his effort. Off the start ramp in Schaffhausen, and by a long circuitous route of approximately 28.6 kilometers, he'll be back to Schaffhausen at the Herblingen district, to be precise, a little bit later on, and it needs to be faster than 36.5 minutes if he's going to be top of the timesheets. We wouldn't expect it at the moment. Rowan Dennis looks imperious as he sits astride the top times. Meanwhile, Greg Van Avermaet picks his way gingerly through that sequence of bends. And Michael Woods already 1 minute and 40 seconds back. Not, I don't think, going to be a significant player.
No, it doesn't look like it, but he's more attuned to climbing mountains fast than time trialing at this moment in time.
4, 3, 2, 1, los.
Well, Valerio Conti is into his effort. He's 12th overall, sitting 7 minutes and 7 seconds down on overall general classification. It's been a strong week for Valerio Conti. Made a bit of a name for himself, the UAE rider. Meanwhile, Cher on that unforgiving climb certainly wouldn't be to his favouritism. TJ, actually, isn't it? TJ Van Garderen, stage victory in Giro d'Italia a few weeks ago. He's been a little bit quiet, hasn't he, so far this week?
Yes, it's. I think, you know, obviously the Giro was a big goal for him. He went there for the GC, came out there with the stage, and I think he's maybe kind of changed as a bike rider now. Has come here to the Tour de Suisse and knows that he's not going to the Tour de France. So I think it's just he's been tired. It's not a major goal here, but he's had to do a lot of teamwork, and he has tried to help Caruso in some of the climbs and you know, swing off and just kind of ride into the finish.
Yes, it must be so difficult for a rider of TJ Van Garderen's stature to maintain motivation after what was a bit of an uneven Giro d'Italia. He did get that stage victory, which I think really sort of rescued the Giro for him, but indeed, one might be a bridge too far. A 9-day stage race at World Tour level. Martin Tusveld of Team Rumpot through the intermediate checkpoint, and Rumpot have had a pretty strong week. They've been in the break on a regular basis. Peter Weening not quite able to get involved in the big mountain assaults and get into the early break, which might have suited him. Quick reminder of our standings. It's Rowan Dennis head and shoulders above the rest at the moment, 29 seconds ahead of his teammate Stefan Kung. But Sylvain Chavanel sitting third on the timesheet at the moment as Greg Van Avermaet wakes his way to the line. He's completed Tour de Suisse for 2017. It's not going to trouble his teammate Rowan Dennis. Pretty good week for Team BMC. Greg Van Avermaet has made his contribution, but is home now, just under 3 minutes back. Greg Van Avermaet, wow, what a great Tour de France he had last year. Stage victory. Maxime Montfort, we watch with interest, is capable of putting out a pretty good time trial on occasion, but you know, it's what sort of a week the riders have had and just how much strength they've got left after 9 tough days of racing.
Well, it's another rider coming out the Giro d'Italia with some reasonable form, sitting in 20th place. Bilbao starts, and you know, he is the first rider to sit in the top 10. They'll come at 2-minute intervals now. They'll start, but yeah, it's Nelson Oliveira for Movistar out in the course. He hasn't had the best of form all week. He normally climbs a little bit better, but who knows, he might come into form just like a few riders. Magnus Cort Nielsen, getting up there in the sprint yesterday and riding a reasonably good time trial today. So some riders have come here to try and gain a little bit of form. Others have come here to do their bit for the team. But it's been a hard week for many. And Maxime Montfort is an ex-Belgium time trial champion and can do a very good time trial. But I think it's been a tiring couple of months for him.
Crouch low over the bars, the Portuguese national time trial champion in the final stage of Tour de Suisse 2017. Nelson Oliveira is pushing hard, as indeed Maxime Montfort also out of the saddle, gripping hard and pushing hard. 7th in stage 10 Giro d'Italia time trial. But there's been a lot of racing since then. And for Maxime Montfort, is this one to be got through, or will he be able to come up with a decent time? Only time will tell. This is the race of truth. It's the final stage of Tour de Suisse. Now we wait with interest for a man who's certainly enhanced his reputation. It'll be interesting to see how this man Marc Soler gets on in the 28.6 kilometer time trial to come.
10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, los.
So Marc Soler is into action. Man who's sitting 9th overall, 4 minutes and 7 seconds back on the overall lead, held by Simon Spilak. Hugo Hull has completed for AG Tour Le Mondial, the Canadian rider. Hull, 1 minute and 37 seconds back. It's good enough for 7th, solid effort. Maxime Montfort finds himself 34 seconds in arrears. Now Marc Soler will be interested to see how he gets on. He was 33rd at 24 seconds in the prologue, which doesn't sound that great, but it was quite a bit better than most of the other general classification contenders.
Yes, comparable against Rowan Dennis, it'll be very difficult, but comparable against the other top 10, I would think that he's got a reasonable chance of maybe a little bit of movement. He started the day 4 minutes and 7 seconds behind Spilak. I don't think he can manage to beat the likes of Spilak, but he's only a matter of seconds behind other riders, like 16 seconds behind Izagirre, who's a very good time trialist, but he's going to have to take over a minute and many other riders round about him if he wants to sneak up there in the general classification.
Yeah, we'll watch that one with interest. That Battle of Spain, you might call it, between Marc Soler and Jon Izagirre, because Izagirre was on pretty much the same time, just beat him by fractions of a second. Could be a little bit of a scrap for 8th and 9th positions on GC, and those riders, both very strong testers who could well move up the order. Maxime Montfort, he's 34 years of age now. So we pick up TJ Van Garderen through the time check at 22.9 kilometers, the 28.6 kilometer final stage of Tour de Suisse. Just under a minute back is actually a pretty strong effort.
It's a strong effort, and BMC sitting 1, 2, 3 at that checkpoint. Kung in the second place there, but TJ finding his legs in this time trial after coming out the Giro with that stage win. He's come here to do his team some goods, and he has been helping out. Just watching Nelson Oliveira here. Oh, that was a dangerous one, and yeah, just going into it too quick and doing a bit of a limbo under the tape and U-turn and back out onto the course.
So that's added a few seconds. Little sojourn down the escape road for Nelson Oliveira, and lucky he didn't catch the tape, although I think the tape may have given, but
yeah, lucky
gentlemanly the way it was lifted up.
Lucky there was a route out of that, and you know, sometimes in some of these corners there's not a route out, and you know, there's barriers and whatnot, but he went into there too quickly, and if there was barriers through that section, then for sure he would upset himself.
Well, he always brings his A game to the time trials. Nelson Oliveira is another man who enjoys the time trials. Victor in the time trial 12 months ago. That's the penultimate day time trial. And Jon Izagirre finishing second overall in Tour de Suisse, not quite on the same form in terms of time trial performance. Quite a way distance in the prologue from Rowan Dennis, but that's a very different character of a time trial. This is just that much longer. It tends to, and of course the hill tends to change the character of the sort of rider that's likely to prevail. For all that, Rowan Dennis is a great all-rounder, and his prologue performance really was exceptional.
15, 10.
So next man up, Michael Nieve.
4, 3, 2, 1, los.
He's 7th overall, the Skyman. 33 years of age now. He's 125th in the prologue, 41 seconds back, so he'll hope for something a little bit better than that, to say the least, if he can get involved and make sure that he's not going to come under threat from the likes of Jon Izagirre. Start of the day, 2 minutes and 54 seconds back. So that's almost a minute ahead of Jon Izagirre. So will Michael Nieve cede that position to his fellow Spaniard? TJ Van Garderen, third fastest at the final intermediate time check at 22.9 kilometers, and the BMC rider third of 3 BMC riders at the head of the timesheets through that intermediate point. At the moment, the time to beat still that 36:30 of Rowan Dennis. Surely, well, no riders to come are going to get close to that. Really was exceptional stuff from Rowan Dennis, and 29 seconds his advantage over Stefan Kung. And I think that's the realistic target for a lot of these riders, is that second position of Kung. Third, Sylvain Chavanel, 1 minute 10 seconds down on Rowan Dennis. That's also, you would suspect, vulnerable to attack from many of the riders coming a bit later. Well, the jerseys make their appearance courtesy of the best Swiss riders. Matthias Frank sitting 6th overall, 2 minutes and 51 seconds down on overall general classification. And he'll certainly be anxious about this one. He doesn't have much of an advantage over Nieve.
No, not at all. And when you look at the difference between Matthias Frank and Nieve, it's only a matter of about 3 seconds. So there could be some possibilities, like we've already mentioned, some movement in the top 10. I don't think Spilak, he has got a buffer of about 52 seconds in Caruso, but when you consider the amount of time between the other riders, it's a battle for movement within the top 10 for sure.
Following TJ Garderen down through this technical section, we saw Stefan Kung quite a bit earlier. It's nice work from Van Garderen. He's quickly back on the pedals, back up to speed, back on the skis. Hits the kite. Not much more than a minute from now, his Tour de Suisse 2017 will be complete. Will he be in a top 3 position? That's the question. Has he hung on to that top 3 position through the intermediate? And he'll be getting the time checks from his team car, and they'll be telling him that this is one to push for. Narrow advantage over Sylvain Chavanel through that final intermediate point, so you can be sure that he's hearing lots of shouting in his ear right now.
Yeah, I would think so. BMC want to finish off this with a flourish, and would dearly love to finish 1, 2, 3 in today's stage.
Yeah, and it'd be an exceptional performance for TJ Van Garderen, really putting an excellent time trial together. If he manages a top 3 position, plenty of riders to come. Will he get up for third? He's still sitting in 3rd place at the moment. Coming to the line for TJ Van Garderen of Team BMC. They're banging him home, and they're sending the American on to glory. Going to be a 1, 2, 3 for now, at least for Team BMC. Indeed it is. 1 minute and 2 seconds back, and about 8 seconds faster than Sylvain Chavanel, as TJ Van Garderen goes into 3rd and makes it a 1, 2, 3 at the moment for Team BMC. On his head, nodding his way to the finish, not betraying much emotion on his face. Neither indeed is Rui Costa. 2.5 minutes down for the Portuguese rider, the former world champion and 3 times winner of this race. 3 times in succession. He's not going to match that surely, but for Rui Costa, still plenty to chase for. Well, Victor Delaparte going to come up with solid effort indeed. Finds himself just 20 seconds down through that intermediate point. The Movistar team, as you've mentioned, Brian, really have impressed with their time trial performances over the last few years. I mean, it's the technical aspects as much as anything else, and the amount of effort that they put into the training. Yeah,
there's a few other teams as well. You can mention Française de Jeu, put a bit of effort in, and you know, some teams will look at this because having a very good time trial in your armoury, you can you know, do a very good stage race for the likes of the Tour de Suisse and other type of races. But it's having everything. It's if you concentrate on time trial and you take it away from something else in your type of riding. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out today, because there aren't a lot of kilometres to make up a lot of time, and Spilak with a 52 seconds advantage in Caruso, courtesy of his climb up to the glacier a couple of days ago, was absolutely fantastic. But Caruso is looking behind himself with 13 seconds to Kruijswijk, Pozzovivo, Costa, Matthias Frank, Nieve, Izagirre. They're all very close in the overall.
Well, here's the pocket dynamo that is Domenico Pozzovivo. 34-year-old Italian, leader of this race earlier the week. And as I mentioned, winner of stage 6 into La Punt in torrential downpour. Superb descending performance, great tacking performance on the mountain as well. The Albula Pass, second of 2 ore category ascents on that mountain appointment. And Domenico Pozzovivo, well, he has managed one good, one exceptional time trial performance in the past in the Vuelta, but in general, the time trial is not an event that goes to his favour. So Pozzovivo, 2:28 behind, might be feeling a little bit vulnerable. We'll watch with interest to see how he gets on against Rui Costa, because there's not much time between them, just a matter of about 7 seconds. Rui Costa with a nice opportunity to move up to 4th on general classification at a race that he really adores.
Yeah, he's got possibilities when you compare the likes of Rui Costa, as you mentioned. From Rui Costa to Pozzovivo, he's 7 seconds behind him. It's going to be tough to maybe beat Kruijswijk, because he needs 1 minute and 30 seconds. But Matthias Frank, another rider, it isn't too far away from Pozzovivo either, because there's only 23 seconds between Matthias Frank and Pozzovivo. So they could, for sure, we're going to see some changes in the top 10.
Well, watch with interest to see how Paddy Bevan gets on. And that is a surprise, isn't it? Paddy Bevan gets across the line. He's 4th at the moment. What a great week he's having. A couple of top 6 finishes. 4th, I believe, his best finish in the sprints, and has also put together a very impressive time trial, the Canada-named Drapac squad. Indeed, he had a 2nd place on the line, didn't he? Now we pick up Stefan Kruijswijk. Kruijswijk, Team Lotto NL Jumbo, sitting 3rd overall, and he's off the ramp and into his effort. Kruijswijk just 1 minute and 5 seconds behind Simon Spilak, the overall race leader. He's got a decent advantage over Domenico Pozzovivo. It's a narrow enough margin between himself and Damiano Caruso, who'll be next off the ramp, and that's going to be interesting to see whether we could have a bit of movement, a bit of a change between 2nd and 3rd, and whether indeed Kruijswijk could well challenge Spilak for the overall win. Marc Soler, 9th overall. Matthias Frank, and of course he's had the advantage of the same time trial training and the same wind tunnel opportunities that Domenico Pozzovivo has. Their teammates at AG Tour Le Mondial. For what it's worth, he doesn't get to wear his own skin suit this week. Or in this time trial, he's wearing that skin suit of leader of the best Swiss rider classification. Sometimes they say that's a disadvantage, others say that well, they're very much form-fitted, and a bespoke skin suits provided for the riders. Certainly at the bigger races, they do go out of their way to make sure that the classification skin suits, whether they've done that at Tour de Suisse remains to be seen. Fabio Fellini in with a great time. He's going to break BMC hearts for what it's worth. This is going to hang on for third. He was fourth at the last checkpoint. Fabio Fellini, 27-year-old Italian, is a very strong time trialist, as is demonstrated by that. Goes to fifth. And that's a solid effort from the Trek Segafredo rider. After winning the prologue in Tour of Romandy, finished fifth in the time trial there as well. Likes the time trial in Switzerland. So now, second last rider off the ramp. Damiano Caruso of Italy and Team BMC knows what he has to do. He's got to close a 52-second gap. He also in turn has to ensure that he holds off Stefan Kruijswijk and any other riders that are making inroads. Jan Izagir, this will be interesting. 16 seconds back, fourth fastest at 9 kilometers, the first intermediate point. So solid effort being put in. One wonders sometimes when riders switch teams, will their time trial form be affected by having to use new equipment?
Yeah, well, obviously it takes a bit of getting used to changing the equipment, and you know, you're mentioning in skin suits as well. I know a lot of races put a lot of effort into making sure they fit, but you're talking about a matter of days. A matter of days to get something to fit, or even 24 hours to get something to fit. Well, the professional teams use a matter of months and sometimes years to get everything spot on. So I don't think you can compare leaders' skin suits against the team skin suits, because I think the team skin suits are better suited and work 100%.
So is this a disadvantage for this man? The overall race leader, Simon Spilak, who's wearing the yellow jersey and heading into action now in the final stage of Tour de Suisse. He knows how to do it. He's done it before, taking the victory in the time trial 2 years ago, breaking Welsh hearts, relegating Geraint Thomas on that occasion. The 30-year-old Slovenian Simon Spilak is off the ramp and into action. 28.6 kilometers between the Slovenian and glory once more in Switzerland. As we get slow motion of riders coming home, Michael Scher is home 20th fastest, a Swiss rider with the BMC squad. And what a great week they've had. Pozzovivo fourth overall. Well, he doesn't cut a big hole in the air, does he? So I suppose that's to his advantage. The watts a little less than other riders are producing. All evens up to a little bit slower than he might hope for. We'll see though. Martin Tuisveld, 9th fastest. Good top 10 performance from the Dutchman with the Team Rompot squad, the Pro Continental team, and big powerful rider, just within a minute and a half of the time of Ron Dennis. Matthias Frank on as big a gear as he dares. Well, the Swiss rider has had a good week, there's no doubt about it. Not really an exceptional time trial rider. Did get 7th in Criterium International time trial stage a couple of years ago. 6th in Bayern Rundfahrt, the time trial there in 2014. Those are the standout performances over the last couple of years. Jan Izagir though, 4th, maintaining that 4th position and still staying at 16 seconds back. Jan Izagir pushing to try and get a little bit further up. Currently sitting 8th. Trying to close that 3-second gap to Mikel Nieve, who started 2 minutes ahead of him on the road. Maxime Montfort It's been a long campaign to this point. Finds himself 2 minutes and 10 seconds down at the final check. Heading for home down the hill. You get the relief of the gradient and the finish line to come. Meanwhile, considerably early in his effort, well, Domenico Pozzovivo and his teammates a little bit further up the road. Behind him on general classification, Matthias Frank, 3.5 seconds. It's a pretty strong effort. Frank is 38 seconds back in the prologue, in 100th position of the GC riders, probably a little bit further back than most. Although it's worth noting that Simon Spilak was only 2 seconds faster, 93rd, and for a man who is pretty strong in the time trial, as climbers go, probably wasn't the most obviously auspicious start to a GC push. Just shows, I suppose, ultimately the prologue not playing a big role this year, because those mountains really were horrific and immense, particularly the Tiefenbacher Gletscher.
Yeah, there's only seconds between most of the general classification riders that we see on our screens now. Some of the riders that were up there in the prologue have since disappeared from the list today, with some retirements of some of the riders that, you know, rode very well in time trial earlier on in this race. But we've got a battle today. I think we'll get two battles today: a battle for the stage win and a battle for the general classification. Rowan Dennis looks as if he's got the stage win in the bag. In fact, I can't see anybody topping the top three of BMC 1, 2, 3. There are a couple of riders that could possibly do that inside the top 20, but I think it's going to be very difficult. So BMC are going to have their day on the stage, but for the general classification honours, we are going to see some movement in the top 10, but it's going to be very difficult to topple Spilak.
So right, Costa 10th fastest, solid effort indeed, 28 seconds down through the 9 kilometre intermediate checkpoint. Portuguese rider takes a well-earned drink as the gradient eases. It's been a superb week of racing, hasn't it? Started with that prologue time trial in Ham, a little bit south of here. Rowan Dennis taking that victory by 6 seconds in the first yellow jersey of the week. Following day in the circuit race that finished in Ham, it was Philippe Gilbert, Belgian champion, taking the victory, and Stefan Kung took over the race lead from his teammate Rowan Dennis, who had crashed on the stage. Michael Matthews won into Bern and took over in yellow. And then Larry Warbass with that heartwarming victory in Villar on stage 4. Damiano Caruso then moving into yellow, and Caruso was the first man to retain the yellow jersey when Peter Sagan took the stage into Chevio. Following day, it was this man, Domenico Pozzovivo, that won to Le Pont and took over the yellow jersey, and would have hoped that it might be a jersey that he could hold on to at least until this time trial, but he hadn't figured with the form of Simon Spilak on the climb to the Tiefenbach Gletscher, and Spilak racing home solo and taking over in yellow. Spilak retaining the jersey through yesterday's circuit race here at Schaffhausen, and Peter Sagan added a second stage victory of the week. Pozzovivo pushing on, that's a big result for him. He did have a 5th in Giro d'Italia stage back in 2014, 5th on the Tour de Suisse time trial on that occasion. He's producing some very impressive time trial form around that time. Tour of Spain, of course, in 2013 came up with a surprise 3rd place finish in the time trial behind Fabian Cancellara and Tony Martin, and ahead indeed of Vincenzo Nibali, Dario Cataldo, Nicolas Roche et al.
I tell you what, he's not doing too bad today. The first time check at 9 kilometres, he's only 13 seconds down in 4th position. So Pozzovivo had a bad day in the mountains when he had the yellow jersey, but it looks as if he's bounced back today.
Well, we'll keep an eye out. He's surely going to find it difficult to challenge Stefan Kruijswijk, who's just 1 minute and 5 seconds down in overall general classification going into today's stage. Pozzovivo, by contrast, 2:28 back. Tusveld finishes. and is home with a provisional top 10 finishing position for the Dutchman and Team Rompot. Solid effort indeed. Roy Costa. "28 seconds back through 9 kilometres. Much to push for. Former World Road Race champion, his day of days. And the UAE Team Emirates squad has got a gem in Costa, but what sort of form is he taking into France in the next few weeks? Well, it's been a solid week here in Switzerland, and the UAE rider is just going to try and hold on to his position as best he can at this point. Can he get to Pozzovivo? Pozzovivo clearly on a good day. Stefan Kruijswijk's on a pretty solid day as well, 5th fastest.
Yeah, just losing 2 seconds out to Pozzovivo. So, yeah, Kruijswijk doing a very good time. The first checkpoint at 9 kilometres. Only 2 seconds off the best of the top 10 performances, and that's Pozzovivo, who was the best of the riders that have crossed that point by a mere 2 seconds from Kruijswijk.
So Pozzovivo's main motivation, of course, is to try and hold off Rui Costa, who you would know is certainly a capable time trialist. At the moment, he's doing that with great facility. Matthias Frank is 33 seconds back in 20th position. It's a solid time trial performance for Frank, but, albeit he's not at the moment get anywhere close to his teammate Domenico Pozzovivo. And we're just under half a minute between them on general classification. Frank in 6th and Pozzovivo currently 4th overall. Soler pushing on, 9th overall, and finding himself 24 seconds down. So as we'd perhaps anticipated, this is a very solid effort so far from Soler.
Yes, he's lost out to the best of the top 10. That was Pozzovivo. We just mentioned that he came through that checkpoint in 13 seconds. So he's losing some seconds. He wants to try and gain seconds in the riders ahead of him. He wants to jump up a little bit. But Caruso still to come through that first checkpoint at 9 kilometres, and we're expecting him very soon.
Well, all 144 riders are into action on this, the final stage of Tour de Suisse 2017. It's the time trial in Schaffhausen, 28.6 kilometres for the riders today. And Simon Spilak, the overall race leader, is down the ramp and into action, and he's started on the road today, 2 minutes behind this man, Damiano Caruso, who's pushing hard and chasing the time of his teammate Rowan Dennis. Surely not going to get anywhere close to that. Needs to try and hold on to his overall position, try to threaten Simon Spilak. Will that be the case? We wait with anxiety and interest to see what happens to Simon Spilak through these intermediate time checks to come. Jon Izagir, 16 seconds down at this moment.
I tell you what, that was a super time there by Caruso coming through that checkpoint at 9 kilometres there. So it looks as if BMC sitting 1, 2, 3 at the top of the leaderboard at the moment in the individual ranks is really putting it on the line today.
Yes, well, that factor you mentioned of certain teams getting their act together as a collective in the time trial has certainly been demonstrated here in Tour de Suisse, isn't it, with the performance in the prologue, and then it's carrying forward again into this final day time trial. Much longer affair, but Team BMC certainly in a very strong position at the moment.
Yeah, Caruso going through that point, 20 seconds off. If we look at the GC contenders, the best of the GC contenders was in fact Pozzovivo at 14 seconds, sitting there in 4th place. Kruijswijk was just behind us. Aguirre was 6th at that moment in time, 7th for Caruso, and Soler was down at 9. So only one rider to go through that first checkpoint at 9 kilometres, and that's the yellow jersey of Spilak.
I'm waiting with interest to see how he gets on. Simon Spilak, we pick up this second fastest. Would you believe it? He's within 7 seconds of Rowan Dennis, and this is a very strong performance. Strong beginning, that's certainly it from Simon Spilak, the overall race leader. Is clearly on fighting form, but has he gone out too early, too fast, too early? That's the question.
Well, he knows himself, he's experienced enough, he's won this race before, good time trialist, and setting the second fastest time at that moment. And now that everybody's through there, there are some riders in the top 10 that are missing some seconds, but we go through that point. Spilak was second there at 7 seconds, and I think Declan will go through the other ones there to see how far they're down.
So we're watching with interest to see how Simon Spilak gets on. 7 seconds back on Rowan Dennis through the first intermediate time check. Pozzovivo, fifth, as Brian has mentioned. 14 seconds back. Stefan Kreuzvik, 15 seconds back. Izagir, 16 seconds. Caruso at 20. Soler back 25 seconds. And the GC riders gravitating towards the head of affairs, as you might expect. They are, by some considerable margin, the most motivated riders in this time trial. And there you have it. Just as I was calculating and trying to demonstrate to you, well, it comes up on screen, and Spilak, Kung, Chavanel and Pozzovivo. Well, it's Spilak and Pozzovivo that we're particularly interested in. Very strong time trial performances through the 9 kilometre point, and Spilak is extending his advantage over Damiano Caruso. Remember, 52 seconds at the outset of today's final day time trial. Caruso now slipping back a little bit closer to Stefan Kreuzvik.
Well, at the 9 kilometre mark now, we can see there's no real change in the top 5. But still a long way to go in this time trial. Still room for movement, but what we can see is this man here is definitely up for it. He's setting a very good time out in the course early on, and really wants to finish this day off for himself and his Katusha team by winning his second Tour de Suisse.
A little bit of head movement there from Simon Spilak, the 30-year-old Slovenian with the Katusha Alpecin squad. 6th season on this team. Slovenian, no surprise, he's one of the all-time sporting heroes of his nation. Marc Soler might have hoped for a little bit more from this time trial. It's a solid effort so far, but he's not making any inroads on the other riders around him. Soler might have hoped that he would get a little bit closer to Jon Izagir, but Izagir is 7th fastest at the moment. Izagir in turn might have hoped for a little bit more at this point in the time trial as well.
Yeah, it's still a bit to go, but all comparing the riders at 9 kilometres at the moment, and Izagir is probably of the top 10, one of the better of the time trialists, together with Spilak. You got to remember, he won the time trial last year, I think, coming off the descent at 113 kilometres an hour, if I can remember. But Jon Izagir is another year on, another team, and I don't think he's setting this course alight, because you'd have him down as a possible top 3 performance, but struggling a little bit out in the course. So far we can see in the general classification riders no change in the top 5, but still looking very good for the top 3 for BMC on the stage.
Unless, of course, this man can get in amongst them, and it's every chance he can, the way he's going at the moment. And we'll watch with interest and wait for the arrival through the intermediate checkpoint at just under 23 kilometres for Marc Soler. 3rd fastest, so he's on a bit of a charge. And that is a significant change, isn't it? Just under a minute down on Rowan Dennis.
Well, it says he's starting to get quicker. He was 11th fastest at 9 kilometres, so you got to remember that this course is fairly rolling to start with, and then we've got that 4 kilometre climb late into the course of 28.6 kilometres. The average is about 5%, so it does look as if Soler has started to get gradually faster and faster on this course.
So Marc Soler is on form. He's chasing the time of Rowan Dennis, who currently leads this final stage time trial. Valerio Conti is coming in to complete his Tour de Suisse. Solid effort indeed from the Italian rider. It's caught his minute man. It's Conrad. Conti is home, 8th fastest for the Italian from UAE Emirates. That'll be good news for Rui Costa. Going well in the time trial. Kreuzvik rides a big gear, doesn't he? For a rider who is able to dance up the mountains, the equal of almost any other GC rider on world cycling, he really can haul a big gear in the time trial too. Great all-round performer. Might have hoped for a little bit more, but well, Giro d'Italia may have left to some of his best form in Italy. Still, it's been a solid effort for Stefan Kruijswijk, who is third overall, better than solid. Johnny Zagir has stepped up faster than Soler, so Soler is not getting to Johnny Zagir. And within 41 seconds of Rowan Dennis at the intermediate checkpoint. Remember, Rowan Dennis has completed this time trial 29 seconds faster than Stefan Kung, his teammate. The Australian just under half a minute faster than his Swiss counterpart and teammate. TJ van Garderen currently sitting third for the BMC squad. Paddy Bevan in fourth. Filippo Feline for the Trek Segafredo squad. Across the line, Victor Delapart in and ninth fastest for the Movistar team. Within a minute and 19 seconds of the best time of Rowan Dennis. Spilak out on the course, second fastest at the first intermediate time check, but we've seen a lot of movement on the times from the first time check, because that hill comes towards the back end and has changed the character of the timesheet throughout the day.
Yes, a measured effort. You cannot go into the red too much because of this climb, because you can lose a lot of time on this 4 kilometre climb, and it does come just before the finish. I think 5 kilometres downhill to the finish, but we have got a battle on our hands. Not much movement so far in the time trial, but we still got this climb to come, and yeah, only a matter of seconds between a lot of the top 10.
Damiano Caruso, the Italian, sitting second overall for the BMC squad. I've seen 3 of his teammates go to the top of the timesheets. Can he replicate their performance and hold off Stefan Kruijswijk? Started the day just 13 seconds behind Caruso did Kruijswijk, so and now it's showing it's 17 seconds, so the virtual calculation going the way of Caruso at the moment.
Yes, very much looks like that. Caruso looks a solid second place at the moment. Kruijswijk has to kind of hang on a little bit, but Kruijswijk has got 123 in Pozzovivo, 130 in Costa, 146 in Matthias Frank, and 149 in the Evi, back to 2 minutes and 46 seconds in Izagiri. So he's got a bit of time, and obviously to finish in the podium, that's what Kruijswijk wants to do. Caruso and Spilak. So for this moment in time, there was only 13 seconds between Kruijswijk and Caruso. So top 3 performance, Spilak, Caruso, Kruijswijk. For this moment, can anybody else upset that with upping up their game towards the second half of this course?
Caruso presses on, and he knows he needs to. Stefan Kruijswijk's putting together a pretty good time trial. It's not as good as Caruso's at the moment. Caruso's further up the road, started ahead, run in reverse order, of course, for those of you that are new to time trialing. And Caruso, of course, is the started behind Kruijswijk, yeah. Because Caruso is ahead of him on general classification. Really overcomplicated that one. Marc Soler is through to finish. And this has been a very impressive effort from Marc Soler, particularly in the back half. He's measured his effort. And will he hang on to a third position? It's looking good at the moment for Marc Soler. Across the line, he's broken the BMC hegemony, and within a minute of Rowan Dennis, for Marc Soler is a very strong time trial performance. The question is, how will it compare to Johnny Zagir, who's going to be next man across the line?
That was a solid performance there by Soler. Got faster as the time trial went on. The only rider that we've not seen finish with in the top 10 was Bilbao for Astana. We'll try and check his time, but obviously if the cameras aren't picking up I don't think he's been setting fast times out in the course, as he's going to finish with a time 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Declan's just pointing that out off the pace, which is 38.41.
So Pello Bilbao has made a bit of a name for himself this week, but the time trial not really suiting him. Certainly does suit this man. Simon Spilak absolutely flying, second only to Rowan Dennis through the first intermediate test. And of course he has the advantage, running last on the road, of knowing exactly what he needs to do. Suspect at the moment he's just riding his own time trial with that 52-second buffer to Caruso. It's looking very good indeed at the moment for the overall race leader Simon Spilak. For Matthias Frank, well, a little bit more difficult at the moment for him, within the top 20. The Swiss rider 1 3/4 minutes slower than Rowan Dennis. Could leave him a little bit vulnerable. Jonas Aguirre pressing on, just over half a minute back from Rowan Dennis. Coming through to the line, will he be ahead of Marc Soler? Well, Jonas Aguirre certainly going to be a top 4 position, it looks like, for the Spanish rider from Bahrain Merida. It's a top 3 finish for Jonas Aguirre, 37.21 within 50 seconds of Rowan Dennis, and pushes Soler further back. Well, Jonas Aguirre, having started the day in 8th position, has certainly rubber stamped that performance.
Yeah, it's looking good for Jonas Aguirre to move up. Actually, one of the riders that is very capable of moving up in the top 10, because he was only 1 minute behind Matthias Frank, and by the looks of things, he could be skipping above him. So Aguirre could be popping into the top 6.
Stefan Kruijswijk now still dueling. It's a match race between himself and Damiano Caruso for that 2nd position on the podium. Simon Spilak looking very strong, surely racing to glory. Rui Costa, 9th fastest, make that 10th quickest through that final intermediate check. 1 minute and 18 seconds down for Portuguese former champion, who started the day in 5th position. 2:35 down. He needs to make sure that he finishes at least 16 seconds quicker than Matthias Frank.
Well, he's doing that so far at the moment on the course, so it looks as if he's holding on to that 5th place. Pozzovivo went quite quick at the 9-kilometre mark. He's the next person past the 2nd checkpoint at 22.9 kilometres.
So we saw Kruijswijk, and then we saw Caruso, and then we saw Kruijswijk again. This is what we're focusing on. And the Dutch star, a picture of concentration. Makes a nice shape on the bike. It maybe sticks up a little bit, but certainly not a lot of body movement. And the riders, well, it's a tough event, but they welcome the opportunity to race on their time trial bikes in competition. Spilak, impassive as ever, shows absolutely no emotion. Just 6 seconds down. He's on an absolute flyer. Can he possibly be a threat to actually take the stage honours? For so long we've been talking and assuming that Rowan Dennis was home and hosed and had the stage victories, bookending Tour of Suisse in 2017 with stage victories in the time trial. But it's not certain now.
Yeah, solid performance by Pozzovivo there, only 10 seconds off the time of Jonas Aguirre, so it looks as if Pozzovivo is doing a solid time trial today and can keep himself in a good 4th position.
Well, it's early days in this time trial for Spilak, but well, just 6 seconds back on Rowan Dennis. And as I say, he looks very much in control. No betrayal of the suffering that must be going on in his body. Bike moving around a little bit underneath him as he reaches this grippy little climb, which, well, the statistics are not particularly frightening in terms of just cycling over, but to race over in a time trial, on a time trial bike. No question, of course, that they would use road bikes to climb, just not really severe enough for that.
No, 4 kilometres at 5%, but that's the climb towards the end. Spilak was on just one of the rollers beforehand, so yeah, not an easy course today. The best time is Rowan Dennis, 36:30, and he averaged just a nudge under 47 kilometres an hour.
Mikel Nieve is home, and this is interesting because he's going to be 37th, and that is certainly going to put him under threat from Jonny Zagir. I suspect that Mikel Nieve could be dropping a position on overall general classification. O'Brien is working away at the abacus. The beads are flying. We'll get full confirmation of it, but not a perfect performance from Mikel Nieve. It's a near perfect performance so far from Simon Spilak. Kruijswijk now second fastest at 22.9 kilometers. And within 44 seconds of Rowan Dennis. So Stefan Kruijswijk, fourth fastest through that intermediate checkpoint.
Yeah, solid performance by Kruijswijk. I think there's a nice battle between himself and Caruso, and I think he knows that. It's propelling him on a little bit to do a very good time trial. So the only movement I can see in this time trial is Zagiri popping into the top 6 now.
Well, Jonny Zagir is currently sitting third on the timesheets at the conclusion of this time trial. And Mikel Nieve is home, and it's confirmed actually 40th fastest with an adjusted time for the Spanish rider, Mikel Nieve, with Team Sky. Stefan Kruijswijk. Well, what will the time have for him through 22.9 kilometers? Fourth fastest.
And actually Soler is popped above Nieve as well, so if it keeps on going with it, it's likely to do now. Izagiri is popped above Nieve, and so is Soler has moved up above Nieve as well. So Nieve not having the greatest day, sitting in 7th place. Looks like he could be 9th.
Well, the question is, what has Matthias Frank done in terms of preserving his position ahead of Jonny Zagir? Marc Soler as well, also on a fine time trial performance. It's 23rd fastest for the Swiss rider.
38:30 his time was.
So precisely 2 minutes down on Rowan Dennis. And that is going to be vulnerable to the effort of Jonny Zagir. Make that calculation for you. Simon Spilak, second fastest at the last time check. It's quite a while ago. Last man on the road. Rui Costa is going to come home. Will it be for a top 10 finish in the time trial? 3 times in succession, a former champion of Tour de Suisse. And Rui Costa, the Portuguese former world champion, has completed 13th fastest. And just under 1.5 minutes back, 1:24 back for the UAE Team Emirates rider. So Rui Costa 1:24 back. And the start of the day, 2 minutes and 35 seconds. They're behind the overall race leader, Simon Spilak. Caruso second overall. And solid effort, certainly at the time check. Not in any question will he be challenging Simon Spilak. His main battle is to defend that second place from Stefan Kruijswijk. Kruijswijk is behind him on the road. He's ahead of him on the road. Of course, he started ahead of him. Behind him on general classification. And Kruijswijk now got it down to 8 seconds. But of course, he's well into the descent, and Caruso with that descent to come. So Stefan Kruijswijk picking the right line on the descent as Domenico Pozzovivo comes through for an exceptional time. Will he hang on to a top 4 position? Domenico Pozzovivo, the pocket rocket from Italy, and AG Tour Le Mondial, 5th fastest in the time trial, within a minute of Rowan Dennis. It's almost 46 kilometers an hour for the diminutive Italian. He's just 165 centimeters tall, but he packs a punch.
Yeah, just unfortunately, when he was in the yellow jersey in the tough climb up to the Glacier, he lost a lot of time.
So Simon Spilak at the 23-kilometer checkpoint. And that time is good enough for fifth fastest, 45.35 seconds, and it's going in the wrong direction for him a little bit.
Yeah, but he has that buffer. He's there and thereabouts with Caruso and Kruijswijk at this moment in time, so I don't think he has to worry too much about it. First and foremost, he thinks of maintaining and keeping that yellow jersey, winning the Tour de Suisse in its history for the second time.
So into the descent, the final descent off the hill is Simon Spilak, the overall race leader, surely now heading to victory for the second time in Tour de Suisse for the Slovenian rider. Back into the tuck on the skis. Crowds out to send the final rider on the road, on his way. And it will be a third yellow jersey of the race and the all-important final yellow jersey of the race.
Just looking at the split point at 22.7, the second split point, there is no change in the top five in the general classification. It does look as if Johan Izagirre's popped into sixth place. Naevi losing a couple of places as Soler moves above them as well.
Here's Kruijswijk in to complete. He'll be anxiously awaiting the time of Damiano Caruso coming behind. Kruijswijk starting the day in third place. It's a very impressive fourth place finish for Stefan Kruijswijk, 53.15 seconds back. Kruijswijk within a minute of the Australian Rowan Dennis. And that is superb effort. Going ahead of Marc Soler, pushing Pozzovivo back to sixth. TJ Van Garderen moving back to seventh. Bevan, Feline and Chavanel at the outer reaches of the top 10. And the time trial still being led by Rowan Dennis, who's well in. Been in that hot seat for a long time. I don't think that he's under threat for the stage win. Stefan Kung second at 29 seconds at the conclusion of the time trial.
So the time for Caruso to come in is the 37.37. If he comes in inside that time, then he'll keep his second spot.
So that's the time to look for. 37.37 will mean that Stefan Kruijswijk has not managed to replace Damiano Caruso in second position. And Simon Spilak, fifth overall through, or fifth fastest through that final intermediate check. Final one we have on screen at any rate. They do have one at the kilometre point. We'll try and pick up details from that, see if we get it when they race under the kite. But Simon Spilak is well into the final knockings and just needs to keep it clean, and he'll surely be home for another victory. He's a man who absolutely loves it in this part of the world. Caruso home to complete, and it's looking good for Caruso. Surely he's going to make it. He certainly does. And Caruso's home third fastest for the Italian. For Team BMC, it's back up to a 1-2-3 for the BMC squad. More importantly for him, Caruso faster than Stefan Kruijswijk and protecting his second position on overall general classification. Superb effort from the Italian. Well, Damiano Caruso within 47 seconds of his teammate Rowan Dennis. And BMC packing nicely at the head of affairs. Caruso protects second, but there's nothing he can do about overhauling Simon Spilak. 45 seconds back. Well, at the last checkpoint, Rowan Dennis certainly made significant inroads in the closing stages, and Spilak, well, he's not going to be far behind Caruso, if indeed he actually is at the end.
No, I think he could be possibly snatching that third place in the stage. So BMC finishing as he started at a 1-2 for sure. But is Spilak just tiring a little bit towards the finish? It was a brave effort from Caruso, a nice time trial. They'll be wanting to finish at 1-2-3 in the stage as well. BMC with a solid second in the overall, but it's down to this man. If he keeps on pushing on, he could be finishing third on the stage and taking his second ever Tour de Suisse title.
Well, he's on the limit. He's pushing hard, isn't he? He needed 2 bites of that right-hander there to move back up and turn in again. And Spilak is not holding anything back, wants to see what he can possibly manage. He's into the closing stages of the Tour de Suisse time trial. I don't think he's quite going to get there. Damiano Caruso will hang on to that position, but Simon Spilak will certainly race to glory and take a second victory in Tour de Suisse in 3 years. For Simon Spilak, it's mission accomplished. He will race home to take the final yellow jersey of the race, finishing 5th on the stage. Rowan Dennis gets stage honours, but this man will win the race overall. It's Simon Spilak of Slovenia, the overall race winner of Tour de Suisse 2017. Well, job done for Simon Spilak. Very controlled, measured, and nicely put together time trial performance to complete. No risks taken, plenty of watts expended, and ultimately he wins the event. Well, the winner of the time trial, indeed winner of 2 stages during the week, Rowan Dennis, will get to go to the podium once more. Just testing the wrist after that effort, showing no effects, of course, of that crash on the second day. Served only to delay him and prevent him from hanging on to the yellow jersey. But there's confirmation of stage honours on stage 9, the final stage of Tour de Suisse. Rowan Dennis ahead of his teammate Stefan Kung by 29 seconds. Damiano Caruso 3rd on the day and 2nd overall, and 3rd of the BMC riders on the day at 47 seconds. Jan Izagirre up for 4th. Spilak wins with 5th in the time trial, wins overall, as Stefan Kruijswijk does a solid effort to be 6th on the day.
I think so, yeah.
Brian, that was nicely put together by Simon Spilak. Did exactly what he needs to do.
Yeah, he looked solid. If anything, the stage that Pozzovivo won, he was obviously showing a little bit of effects, a little bit of fatigue, bounced back the next day, solid team performance, and for the second time in 3 years he wins the Tour de Suisse. But that was an exceptional performance up to the Glacier a couple of days ago, and solid time trial there. But let's not take anything away from some of the other top 10 performances there, because there was some GC contenders really battling it out there and putting in some good results in this time trial today. But it's certainly thirsty work for the yellow jersey.
Well, he's certainly earned that, hasn't he? He has endured throughout the 9 days of Tour de Suisse, and where does this man go from here? Seems to
come back to Switzerland next year and win something again.
Yeah, he loves it in Switzerland, doesn't he? Great performances in Tour de Romandie in the past as well. Can he now translate that onto another stage as we get some sights and sounds of this stage? Rowan Dennis off much earlier on the starting order and had a long day in the hot seat, but one that he was certainly looking forward to when he set out today. Would have been nothing less than he would have hoped for. It's an absolutely beautiful position on the bike. Rowan Dennis has taken stage honours on the final stage of Tour de Suisse. Simon Spilak, well, he gets the overall. It's been another great 9 days of racing in Switzerland. Final World Tour stage race ahead of the Tour de France.
Congrats, Rowan Dennis. It's your second win on this tour, and I would say